And welcome to episode 174 of the DayZ Podcast. We are joined, as always, by our wonderful co-host, Cobra. How you doing?
Yo, how good? All good.
Lemons, welcome back again, buddy. How you doing?
You know how it is, man. Keeping it real. Glad to be back.
But the man of the moment is the one, the only Mr. IkeOzzy. How you doing, buddy?
Doing pretty good. I'm excited to be here. It's been fun. I got the kids a little bit content for the time being. So
it made me laugh. You said you were putting a show on to keep the kids content. My son sent me a bunch of memes last night, and it was a father talking to his two kids, and a girl and a boy, and he says, "Do you want to watch a movie, kids?" And they're like, "Yeah, I want to watch what's the Frozen," and the girl says, and the boy says, "I want to watch Bluey," and the father puts on Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, as it should be, mate.
Time for the kids.
Yeah. Oh man, but yeah, mate. I first became aware of you through Everyone Knows Dave. How he's got that Fallout map that he's designing, and I come across I don't know how, but somehow I saw you doing a stream where you were creating a vault door for DayZ, and I was like, holy crap, the things they can do these days. And I shared it with Dave, and Dave said, yeah, he's doing that for me. And I've been following you ever since. And then I reached out and said, mate, we've got to get you on, because I've talked to a lot of people over the years who work in the in modding and that for DayZ, but I don't think I've ever had anyone specifically more into the 3D art style of things that you seem to be. And it's amazing some of the stuff that you're doing.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. I'd say my biggest thing, or the hardest thing for me, is to decide like what I will not pursue, just because it feels like anything's possible sometimes, and it's like you can only do so much. So yeah, but with 3D, that's what I love about 3D modeling and things like that is if there's something you don't know how to do or know how to make, like you can figure it out, and if your mind works that way in 3D space. And so you just have to find a way to focus and, bring it in, because you can make anything you can think of.
I mean, Cobra, I'm really glad we've got Lemons here for this week, because out of the three of us, I think he's probably the only one with the tech know-how to understand this sort of stuff. But Lemons, have you seen the stuff that Ike's been doing?
Unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to, no.
It's amazing. Ike and I caught up through the week because I really wanted to make sure that we had an idea of. That's all right, mate. We don't mind the cat. Just don't
sometimes
just don't do an alinity, mate. And feed it vodka or throw it over your shoulder.
Yeah.
But
speaking of which, though, I was going to say, Ike, how good are you at doing maps, 3D maps and things?
I've gotten pretty good. I wouldn't say like I'm an expert, but I've been having a lot of fun the last year working with DayZ. But I overall felt limited just by the set of tools as far as like terrain and terrain data and all that stuff. But I noticed a lot of people were making them from like real world terrain data. There's several ways you can go and get a height map and kind of translate that into
we've had Big Grandpa on before, and he's showcased that how you can import it, and then you just got to flesh it out from there. But
yeah, it's a lot of work. Mine, I actually decided with this one, I drew it out on my iPad. It's like going like straight concept design first. I drew the roads and just kind of on a whim, and then I went back and did it a little bit more into it later, but I have it all on my YouTube channel and things too. But yeah, I drew it all out, and then I was like, how am I going to do this? So I just started with a flat plane, and I just hand sculpted it instead of doing like a terrain data and things. So that's made certain things more of a challenge, but also a lot more fun, because I have full creative freedom over it. I'm not like limited by anything. Like as far as I don't just have to alter what's presented before me. So yeah, it's kind of fun, because now I can take it whatever direction I want.
Oh I'm not sure, Boyd, if it's interfering with the general sound. Everything's gone a little bit tinny.
That didn't go well. That did not go well. Me trying.
That's all right. We can like post a link to it or something, just for people to kind of see the shapes or things. I don't know if like a static screenshot would do better, but I've got a lot of different things that I wanted to try and just learn about it all, like the whole like making of a map and things anyway. And for a couple months, I messed around in like Unity and wanted to see how it felt, and then I went to Unreal. I feel a lot less limited in Unreal. It's really cool the amount of things you can do in like Unreal Engine, and I've actually been utilizing like pretty much every tool out there that I can get my hands on for this, whether it's using Blender, certain tools within the other game engines, and then like Substance Painter, and just kind of bringing it all back into DayZ, which you have to adjust a lot of things because and we've talked about this before, Boyd, like the whole, you know, the fact that they were able to accomplish such a good looking game with DayZ, yet still have this like really good functionality and a low poly, you know, kind of design. Like when you actually break it down, it's not like too complex, but somehow they were able to get that like stylized, realistic look in there.
Because this is something that I wanted to go further into with Ike Lemons, was for myself, like I look at DayZ and I see a game that's quite realistic looking, quite quite beautiful at times. You know, especially with the new skybox that they've done now. Ike's going to talk a bit more about that. He was quite impressed with how they did it, but to find out that essentially it's quite a simple system that they did it with, it blew my mind, Lemons.
Oh, absolutely. Like it's almost similar to the tweet I made recently discussing like how a lot of it's very modular models that are just kind of put together to make more complex environments. But a lot of this stuff are very kind of simple, you know, assets that they've created, and just kind of whoever the artist is or the designers is at their disposal to kind of take those tools and make it into what we have, you know, and we see on the maps, right? So even, you know, looking at some of the buildings we have, like the proxies inside, you know, those are all things that were placed after the building has been created, you know. So seeing all the modular assets that goes in to create these more complex environments and POIs, you know, are very interesting. So
now, like, did you want to go further into that?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it's kind of cool because if you have been playing DayZ basically since like Arma 2 mod, and you've followed that journey and stuff, you've been able to see how in most ways it has held pretty much 100% true visually, obviously, but with updating, you know, to, you know, more current standards. But still, when you think about it, like it is a very I mean, you could say it's an outdated you know, game engine, or, you know, like the things behind it and when it was made, and, you know, compared to the level of, you know, poly counts and vertices and things you could have now. But the thing is, it works, and I think a lot of people, I mean, think some people even just like a 2D side scroller, you know. So I mean, when you're talking about how much fun, you know, like something is, that's completely up to the individual. And I think I really like that they stayed so true to, you know, how it used to be. I mean, you can tell that there's a vast difference from, you know, Arma 2 DayZ mod to, you know, later standalone.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of fun because I was going through and looking at some of the models, even just the other day when I loaded up my map to test a new, I did a new like satellite map import, and where the camera loaded in, it was just right above a broken tree stump. And I was looking at the actual topology, or like the 3D geometry of where they split off and broke this. So you have this almost photorealistic looking texture scan of a tree trunk that's completely like shattered. Yet when you actually look at the geometry there, like it's so basic, but it looks wonderful the way they set it up. If you go all the way around it, no matter like what your graphic settings are or anything, like, and that I think is a good accomplishment. If you can UV map everything just right and make it look where you don't have to think for another second that it pulls you out of like the game, yet you know, you're not feeling like it has to be like these new crazy things with like Unreal Engine that are just mega scans put right in, and you know, they look great, but do they need to look that great yet? I don't know.
I personally like it, Cobra. You know, it's one of the things I've always loved about DayZ, and where I've struggled with a lot of other games is the realism of DayZ. The game looks good. It runs well. It doesn't look cartoony. Not that I've got anything against that. One of my favorite other games is The Long Dark, which has got a very unique style. But I've just always loved that more realistic style that DayZ has, Cobra.
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, that's why I play it. I mean, I think, as you mentioned, the Skybox earlier, I mean, there's a lot of new things coming in now that I don't think any other game touches. We go over it, we spoke about it a few times now, but there's nothing else out there, even on the 7th of December when this new game the day before comes out. I still don't think it's going to be anywhere near the quality of DayZ. I really don't. I'm going to give it a go, but I still don't think it's anywhere near that. So, yeah, it's an interesting situation, isn't it? I mean, I think there's probably about another 4 or 5 years worth of creation to get anywhere near DayZ by anyone. I don't think there's anyone even close. Is there? Anyone?
I struggle to think of anything. Lemons, either of you two aware of anything else out there?
That's been like publicly pushed, no, which is probably a good thing. I mean, if you're trying to be like I'm the next DayZ or things like that, you're setting like you're setting a bit of a standard there. And some people, whether you want that or not, because some people are kind of like, well, we need something new, or but I don't know. I think that I definitely think it's possible. And the thing about DayZ is it has to be in its own like unique enough. And it has to feel right. I think it comes down to how it feels. I think that's what's so cool about DayZ is you get into it. I mean, I've never had another game I've sunk that kind of time or hours or even effort into content creation. And so I think it has to feel right no matter what it is.
Yeah, the other thing as well, Lemons, is that a lot of people sit there and say, how hard can it be and all the rest of it. Just look out there, look around, and there's not a lot of other games. Dead Matter really struggled. They talked about the big city of Calgary, I think it is, and then they had to make that its own area of the map, I believe is what they're going for, that you load into. Scum's had the same issues with, it's got some beautiful artwork in that game, but even they had issues with their big cities and all the rest of it. And it's like, it's not as easy to do. Like Banov was the first one that I can really recall where they went all in with a big city for a DayZ map. And I was surprised at how well that run, Lemons.
Oh, absolutely. I think one of the biggest complications, especially, is just, with any open world title, when you're trying to work on such a large scale, you have to kind of figure out a way to compromise that quality or complexity when it comes to those larger cities, but still keep that level of detail. You see a lot of titles where they have to kind of figure out ways to optimize performance with that, whether that be, reduced draw distance or better level of detail for the buildings, like how it renders in when it comes to the player. But there's certain things that you really have to kind of address because you can't have, such big towns and cities without having like a performance impact. Even look at going back 0.63 of DayZ when they had to redo Cherno. Cherno was a very, performance intensive town, and I think it still kind of is. But they've definitely taken a lot of steps to reduce that and make it a better or a more optimized experience for the player while still looking, I'd say the Cherno still looks pretty good.
Yeah, Connor, one of the team, just messaged me. Deadside is probably one of the closest when it comes to graphics wise. So I've dabbled in it a couple of times. I've loaded it up. I've got it, but it just hasn't had the same sort of bite for me that DayZ has. When we spoke earlier this week, mate, there was a few things that we wanted to cover that we had a nice little chat about because, like I said to you, I don't know a lot. I've got a monkey brain. I just like things to look pretty. And one of the things I've noticed is the quality of assets that some of the custom maps are getting. The benchmark is just getting higher and higher. We really noticed it, like with Battle was, again, Cabello's map was one of the first that I can recall that had some new custom assets made for it, new buildings that were unique to it, but they didn't quite feel right. But it seems like since Cabello released that map, you guys who work in this area have really gone to the next level with it. because the stuff I'm seeing out there, like what Maddie's doing with Bitterroot, what you're going to be doing with your map, Hashima Island is doing, it's just getting better and better, mate. Why is that?
I believe when we were talking about it before, I kind of brought it down to, I thought, like two things. And one is, I think the collaboration / people being able to like share, like, hey, here's something I'm working on. Not that it's necessarily, I mean, I've done it too. I shared like this, trying to do a landslide and physics and things. Doesn't mean it's going to work out perfect, or it can be, but there are different individuals who are like, I have this idea and I'm pushing these boundaries, and they share it in these different communities. And then you have skeptics, but then you get other people who are like, that would be awesome. And then later they're like, hey, how would you go about this with this technicality or this or that? And those questions being asked or put forward by other like-minded people who also kind of know the backside of things, then just by sharing it, just by kind of like putting that concept or that idea out there, you've now allowed like further development of having that come to fruition, because you've got more than one mind on it. And if you're willing to share and not kind of gatekeep some of these cool things that you are trying or attempting to do, then you actually get more people invest on how that might be done, and more minds always bring more results.
A few people in chat are saying about how DayZ needs to step away from the old gen consoles. That would be lovely, but I don't know whether they can. Because there's people who would have bought that game on. So basically, unless they were to, create a new game, I don't know whether they can, because there might be, they've got obligations to keep that old game running. Would that be right, Lemons?
I guess yes and no. We've seen titles like, of course, like you said, they progressed to a second one, but Grand Theft Auto, when they had their remakes or their remasters, of course, GTA 5, I think, has had 4 or 5 different renditions throughout the different next-gen platforms, as it's gone from like Xbox 360 to Xbox One to Xbox, like the next gen, Xbox One X. And of course, with the newest one, it is exclusive to the next-gen consoles. And I think that it's a big topic for debate, but I am one of the people that pushes for seeing more stuff kind of put towards the next gen. At this point, it's been how many years since the Xbox has been released, or like the Xbox Series X and S has been released,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have been able to transition, and at this point, it shouldn't be a limiting factor for why we can't get new or kind of better content,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the fact that I have a buddy the other day, I don't have an Xbox, I have a PlayStation or whatever, and I look for what's cross-platform and on PC, and I was like, hey, we should do something. And then I was like, have you heard of Arma Reforger? Because I've had some great times just messing around on there. While on PC, you can lobby with people on Xbox and stuff. And it's just there's a whole lot, as long as they they can keep open like backwards compatibility, so that no one has to go get some special adapter eventually to play their favorites on their favorite era of their chosen console. But I mean, going forward and then allowing kind of more open support. I mean, we never saw mods on consoles till very recently, or things like that. So I mean, that's a good, as one of my friends, the Grinch, says, opening cans of worms. That's a good kind of cans of worms to open and hope for the best.
So what I wanted to get into next, mate, was the actual 3D modeling side of things, a bit more in depth there, because you seem to. I'm really hoping this episode gets more people coming across and watching you, the same as they've done with Deer Isle development and stuff like that. But it's, again, I've got a monkey brain. I can barely understand, but I know pretty stuff when I see it. And just watching some of the videos where you're creating stuff from scratch, can you run us through that sort of process? What goes from, and what sort of time frame we're talking about? I know it's a lot to pack into one thing, but the floor is yours. Just how hard is it to make, say, a custom building or something for DayZ?
See, that's kind of the trick there, because when you're talking about just making a custom building, I mean, I could go at it all day long, and I could make it like pretty much ready for full use for like 3 other like game engines or things, and have like 10 different formats exported, and have collision geometry and all that stuff all figured out like that. But when it comes to DayZ, and I don't know why this is, but it's very unique with its base functionality requirements, I guess is the best way to put it. So anything else, you can, for the most part, pretty universally, whether via plugins or just basic, process, from beginning to end, even do really complex or simple things. But I feel with DayZ, you always have to kind of watch, basically if it's going to show up and look okay in Bulldozer, which is a external viewer for, say, like terrain builder or object builder, which is kind of where you can format, make model configs, and that's where you add. You can do it another way, like through other things, but you can add collision geometry, make sure people aren't walking through walls, and you define everything within DayZ, whether that's like if it's like how the light shines off of it. You put what are called RV mats in there, and then DayZ have their own model, kind of like there's a FBX or an OBJ and things.
See, this is where you lose me.
Yeah, you lost me, mate. There.
Yeah, and
so 3D model files. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, Lemons, I'm going to be relying on you with the, you've got a better tech understanding if there's anything that you think we should delve into. But you two have got to remember you're talking to a couple of idiots here. So the FBJ with the OBJ and the CIA and the FBI, I don't get
Must
that
be like,
shit. So,
Charlie Brown when the parents are on the phone. It's going like, wah, 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 wah.
the teacher, yeah. So yeah, carry on, Ike.
So like that basically is kind of like what I'm getting at there is everyone else has almost more of a widely used and universal type of format or things, but when it comes to DayZ, they're not using those general things. You can still put them and convert them into there, but it wants to recognize it as their own, which is called a P3D. And then
Da Grinchy's saying here, what he's trying to say is it can take a couple of days to perfect a model for the map, and it takes a lot longer until you've got time invested in errors.
Yeah, so you can get something in there and it could show up and you might not be able to like walk through it or something, but what other problems is it causing if it's not optimized or put in there right and stuff? So and to me that's been the biggest barrier. I've got tons and tons of things that I'm ready to get like in there. It's sinking the time in to
like I saw your city assets pack that you've got or something on your YouTube channel. I was checking that out, one of the videos you made, which was just beautiful to look at.
Yeah, thank you. I have all kinds of stuff that I'm excited to get in there, and I've it's kind of a one by one. You can only do so much at a time, and then as I was doing this, I started feeling like some of the stuff I'm already doing, so why not share it? And so I've already kind of shared my ideas and things, but I decided to make I've only had one like major update on it, but I did a world design assets. That's just anyone can repack it. It's on the mod workshop or whatever. That one's right now it's just a bunch of soldier bodies that have died in every which way and form. Like I rigged and animated
I did like
them.
that.
Yeah, so you can hang them over a wall or whatever, but and then people were requesting like, oh hey, could you do this person in a hazmat suit, or could you do regular civilians or this or that? And it's like I'm already working on it, so I'm like, yeah, and all I got to do is share the file. They can go use editor if they want and drop it in,
Well, this is something that Lemons will be interested in because he just released some stuff as well, some like custom dynamic events and that, just to make the world look a bit more lived in. Because Livonia was a bit better, in my opinion, Cobra, for how it it looked a bit more run down and all the rest of it. But Chernerus itself, I've always found, is starting to get a bit better with some of the new stuff that they're adding in. But it always just felt a bit empty to me. But some of this stuff, like what Lemons released, looks great to me, Cobra.
Well, yeah, the one thing I never quite got was on Chernerus was, you see the mods where he put all of the overgrown, not the jungle mod here, I'm talking about just the overgrown stuff on buses and cars and that. And I see very little of that in the early days. And I saw very little of that even really now in Cherno, I think. Livonia got a little bit better. But I never understood why there wasn't a load of that after 10, 15 years in the future. Do you know what I mean? But
it's interesting you say that, Cobra, because early on, and like going back to when Brian Hicks was still with the project, if you go back to the Trello, that was still stuff that they want to address. You can see very early drafts of some of the housing models that have proxy of overgrowth on them, and that ended up getting recycled into what we see on the buildings in Livonia. But it's very interesting to see why, stuff like this didn't end up making it in the cut for Chernarus, and why,
I want to cut to Ike here. You've got a good understanding of the complexities of introducing an asset. How much more intensive is it to do what we're talking about, to make it, more graphically intense, to have more models and things like that? Like, for a map the size of Chernarus, how much impact? Like, we kind of got a bit of an insight into it with DayZ expansion when they had the overhaul of Chernarus as well. And from what I recall, correct me if I'm wrong, but that really tanked a lot of servers to try to run that, didn't it?
I'm not as familiar on how like that necessarily played out there in that specific scenario. But if I'm right, what we're kind of talking about here is generally put together as what's called clutter. Which it's funny because you give it that name while you're in the files and while you're designing like clutter or different like things to put in, and that could be like just even a waving stack of weeds, and there's really not much to them, and clutters is the one thing that you are able to kind of put an abundance of it, and without it being like anything too major. So I think maybe it could come down to two things. The time that it would take to optimize what someone creatively might want to do for it. For example, say you have vines and ivy and things like crawling up, say a hospital in between all those broken windows and things, and then up the staircase and different things. It can be done and stuff, but I guess how optimized is the files there, and what kind of performance dip are you going to have if someone's really wanting to try and actually make that seem convincing, as opposed to like you have, I guess with DayZ and how old it is and things and the way they work with LODs, which stands for LOD, so level of detail. Everything can have a certain amount of them. So that's basically, I guess the best way to put it is if, say you got a tree and it looks like super amazing up close, right? You can walk all around it, 3-dimensional, you see all the branches, all the little leaves. But say you go back like 100 yards away, and then you look at it, and then suddenly, it looks a little bit different, but the next level of detail would be like if you had 2 cardboard pictures of it and they're crossed like this, right? And so depending on where you're looking at, you're always facing that good looking picture, but it's only actually rendering like 2 planes that you're looking at. And so, and then if you get even further than that, then you only have like a flat plane, depending on kind of like where you're looking at. And so it kind of tricks you with what you're actually able to see, and that's kind of a general way of putting like level of detail.
You're actually pretty good at explaining this. Like, I think even Cobra was like with me. Then it was like, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah,
and in my mind, I was thinking of bushes and trees I've seen in the distance and how that plays out. So that was a good explanation. Thank you.
Yeah, they kind of look like that sometimes, depending on your graphic settings. They can literally look like someone put 2 pictures of a tree together and was like, look, it's a tree way out there.
But
yeah,
speaking
it is
of which,
object complexity, when go ahead, Cobra.
No, you carry on, Limbs.
I was just gonna say, I think one of the biggest issues too we had with the performance issues with DayZ expansion is a lot of those assets and models that we saw were being actively called into the game. Kind of similar to the approach that we took with console on Zagor when we have the object spawner. Of course, they use different things. I know they have a different process when it comes to having their assets spawned in, but it's all stuff that's being actively brought into the environment. Whereas if we were to do it as a model side, and I think this is something that I could agree with as well, that stuff can be pre-baked into the model, or if, as a proxy, it's just a lot more similar. I guess it's just easier with the performance. And when it comes to stuff like the Ivy that we have, or at least that's been given to us through standalone, they're just flat textures. There's no actual complexity like any model or 3D like kind of dimension to the Ivy that we have. So
I've noticed that you don't want to get close to the Ivy. It really looks crap up close, but from a distance, it looks okay.
Yeah,
but
I'm guessing
the advantage of that is
also
also because of how easy it is to spawn that stuff in, because it's only a flat plane, with the texture. So we can have a lot more of that spawned in and on these buildings compared to if it was an actual 3D model that had, vertices to it and like model complexity.
Cobra?
One thing that, sorry.
No, I was just going to say. So if you think about it, when you put the jungle mod on a server, now I played a couple of those servers with the jungle mod on, and it looks great at some stages, but then pretty much what you were saying is when you get close to it, it does look very, very artificial. So my question would be, if it's that easy to turn all of those trees pretty much into the jungle mod scenario, how easy would it be technically to maybe update a server with Ivy? What's that going to take you reckon, Ike?
Let's see. I think I don't know. I think it kind of depends. One of the ideas that I had, and I would have to kind of test what the actual like performance impact would be, but even though you can still have a single plane as far as like what your actual geometry or topology or thing. So picture if you have a picture of instead of going flat, I was wondering what kind of difference you could achieve visually by you can take a flat plane and imagine if you took a straight, like a branch with a leaf on it, and you made that flat plane spiral. You still have a flat plane, but it could look like that could wrap around something, right? So what it would be is the background would be completely clear. So like a backgroundless, stem and a leaf on it, for example. I'm wondering how that might look visually, because you're moving in a 3D space rather than having this like flat thing that you put, you don't quite collide it into the wall, but you come just before it. But then you can kind of, like you said, you get up close, you're like, I don't know. So I was wondering how that would, how something like that would work, because it's definitely possible. I made my own little flower plant and it goes off in a couple directions doing that same thing. So why not have something a little more unique, but without it actually having any more that it should be pulling other than your visual angle? So, would it look weird and flat?
Even in,
I don't know.
Even in official, we have stuff like that with some of the official assets we've seen in DayZ. With some of the Ivy, it's actually a texture on a cylindrical model. So it's wrapped around and it's more kind of rounded, like you were saying. But I think tracing back to what you were saying, Cobra, the biggest difficulty is between the two things is they are handled through different processes. To have Ivy spawning on buildings, that would be done through the actual proxy of whatever the model is. But when we talk about the overgrowth and the objects and the foliage that we see, like the clutter within the jungle mod, that's handled through the maps config CPP file, and that's what determines what all the clutter is. So it would be two different processes. But I know where you're coming from with that. But it is it all comes down to what the complexity of whatever the model is that you're spawning in, because you go from having like these flat Ivy models to, if you have these, as like an example, like an extreme, if you were to replace all the grass with, God forbid, like car models, or something stupid like that, there'd be definitely a much bigger performance impact, because the car model has a lot more higher like complexity to the model, and it's not just a flat texture, and it has different shaders, and all these different things come into what we have as the model, And I think this is stuff that I can definitely agree with as well.
Yeah, having done mapping and stuff, that's one thing that I've noticed, because you obviously try different methods as you're going along. And I had someone who wanted to help, but like obviously they didn't have the knowledge or skill set or things or the resources even to really like hop into Terrain Builder and do things. But they're like, what if I use DayZ Editor, which they're pretty good with, right? Like they've done some really creative things with DayZ Editor, and you can export a TXT file and pop it in and stuff. But I have noticed over time with different things, people make great builds on servers, and when you're using just vanilla stuff and you're not going overboard, it seems like it's pretty good. But there's definitely a difference I've noticed if you take things and you're not calling for them like from any type of external thing, but they're coming straight from the source. For example, like it's packed into the map. You're not needing extra mods to like show it or this or that. That makes a big difference. So if I make my own like special tree or whatever, whatever it is, but I actually put that model and place it within, I basically add it to my pool of DayZ assets and put it on the map. That's going to function in a different way than if it has any extra steps to be, to perform.
Interesting.
I'm still trying to process all of this, because it's absolutely amazing. Now, what was one of the other things that we wanted to talk about was, and you touched on it then, the complexities of getting into this sort of stuff, Ike, and the issue you found yourself where it's hard to find all of the information you need to start to learn this sort of stuff.
Right. I mean, you can look endlessly and find a wealth of knowledge. The question is like, what how long does that take you, and what is that journey like? And basically, how I'd explain it is it's like a horrible quest line or something. Like you show up and one person's like, go to this guy, he's going to give you a paper and ask you a question, and you're like, okay, all right. And then you're like, but that's all that's all I can do for right now. You go there and you get that, like, all right, I got this, now what do I do? And it's just like you go from one video to the next, and then you find out actually those last 5 outdated, not a good way to go. And it was annoying, because you're like, some people provide a good amount of stuff. So I decided I just put like a little mini series of videos together, and I'm like, hey guys, I'm not trying to step on anyone else's toes where these resources came from or things, but I'm like, these are all the helpful things I have compiled. Here's a little video on where to get them. Here's a one place with all the links, all the configs, everything you need. And it was just like, if anything, this is just me trying to help you save your technical time of finding things and stuff, and then just get creative, so you can dive into it and have a good time, because it can be pretty daunting when everybody is telling you, okay, you're going to need this, and that, and I've put a description to only one of them, or one in the description, and it's like, okay. But people can be very helpful when you go out and you ask, and then other times people are kind of like, if you don't know, you don't know, and you're like, well, thanks. So
there is agreeing. You're like just saying it's not just in this aspect. There's so many areas of DayZ modding where it becomes quite convoluted as to where to go to find stuff. You've got some stuff released by BI officially. Then you've got some other people sharing stuff on YouTube. There's some stuff in some Discords. There's some websites. But to know where to go, it's very confusing, Lemons.
Oh, absolutely. I think the biggest issue is you really kind of have to know the right people to get the right kind of information. And it's one of those things where it's just, I wouldn't necessarily say the information is gatekept, but it's such a small group of people that know the kind of information that
is a word that Ike and I used when we were chatting earlier. Unfortunately, call it as it is, mate. Unfortunately, there is some stuff that is gatekept for whatever reason. It's a bit disappointing, but thankfully, it seems that a lot of this information is starting to get out there on how to do things. I understand why some people will gatekeep something that they've created themselves, but I'm a big believer in if you share something, then we can all win from it, and
I agree.
Absolutely. It's just we're sharing everything to kind of push the bar and make everything more advanced within the community, because the more stuff that we as a community can develop together, that will make the whole game, advance, and just trying to evolve stuff like that, holding on to stuff yourself isn't going to help anybody, and the more stuff that we can have publicly available and well documented, the more that the map developer and exactly, the more that players and modders can start to really come together and make more exciting and immersive content for players, and I think it would really help a lot.
I've got to give a shout out here to Don Sibley. I think he was one of the first really big names who was publicly sharing a lot of this stuff.
Absolutely.
On a massive scale, because the modding community kind of already was doing some stuff, but it was still a lot of what you said before about you need to know the right people and all the rest of it. And then Don came in and started doing all this stuff on console and just publicly making it all available. There was the JSONs he was releasing and videos showcasing how he was doing stuff, and he kind of set a benchmark there. So big shout out to our boy Don.
Absolutely. Him and ScaleSpeed have really been kind of the pioneers when it comes to just the kind of stuff that they've said, and documented and have, live for anyone to view is just amazing, because there's so many people where I'll be talking to them, or, I'll see stuff online and they'll be like, I didn't know what I was doing or what I wanted to do, and I was able to create this stuff or make this experience because of what I saw from ScaleSpeed or from Don Sibley, and some of the newer creators, like we have Josie Garfunkel and we have Ballshot, so many amazing creators in the community just creating stuff that is very informative and educational for people.
I've got to be honest, I thought we had Jose on a little while ago, and I'm now a member of his Discord, but there's a lot of stuff on there as well, some really, really good stuff on there. And there's about 5,000.
Got a great voice for this sort of stuff as well, hasn't he? He's a creator and a presenter. He's good at that. Cobra.
He's very good, mate. Very good. And the thing is, if you ask him a question, he will get back to you pretty rapidly. So it's nice to see that. Now, here's a question for you all, right? Is it more gate kept in the content creation of DayZ or in the modding community? There's a question for you, because I've got a view on that. There you go.
That's an entirely different topic, and I think that's worthy. I think that's worthy of its own segment on another show.
Yeah.
Gatekeeping is a natural human sort of instinct. People like to, knowledge is power, they say, and he who has the keys to the, it's.
Yeah, I was talking with my wife the other day. A while back, we had a little business, and we got this laser cutter.
They're great at keeping gates locked, aren't they, wives?
well, she was talking to me about that same kind of thing, where she's like, I feel like, I shouldn't be. She's like, I'm just using some of these other people have made these files, and I'm having the machine make them. I was like, you're still hand painting and putting your own style and stuff. But I was like, you need to think about it this way: a handmade item or something that someone else can make, that they've enabled other people to then kind of do themselves. No one individual person can then provide that to the entire world. There's no time or resource. And I was like, so someone, sharing files, sharing a way for someone else to also partake in that same, creative journey. I go, that's kind of a cool thing. And you don't have to look at it. We were having this conversation because my daughters were fighting about who was copying whose work, because if it was original or not. And I was like, everything out there has basically been done. It's just told or done in a new way. And so I was like, you have to, if someone's willing to share, feel glad that you're putting your own spin on it. If you're, going to do something like that, there's nothing wrong with that.
You just made me think of an infamous moment from the early 1900s, when the bloke in charge of the patent office in the United States, I think it was, basically said, I don't know why I do this job. Everything that's going to be invented has already been invented. There's still so much more out there. Everyone will come up with new spins on things. And that's why it's important to share knowledge, because you might be hitting a block, or someone can reimagine what you're doing. We see that all the time. Just look at the quality, like I said, of the maps at the moment. It's like there's been just this massive spike in some of the stuff I'm seeing, like the jungle map, and Hashima Island has got me so excited. Bitterroot looks amazing. It's just
he's doing well there.
The map area of the game has just exploded, and the big part of that is what you seem to specialize in, Ike, with the 3D modeling. All these custom assets. A lot of people have said, but it doesn't quite feel like DayZ, and I was like, you've got to forget about some extent. You've got to forget about the canon of DayZ and Eastern Europe and all the rest of it. And it's still that virus would have spread across the whole world. So it's fascinating to me to be able to go to different areas of the world with stuff that's more relevant to there. You don't see, if anyone's done any traveling, you don't see the same sort of architecture everywhere. It's all different styles, and I've absolutely loved playing on the jungle maps and stuff like that with custom assets, and it's brilliant.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the world changes over time, and the doesn't really matter like what it is. Some things come and go in style or things too. There was someone I was seeing at the stores, you got records players and those kind of things are all coming back, and people are loving them. And there was a new, like one of these new young generations was sitting there talking about how cool it would be to have a reliable phone that was like always in a central location available for everyone. And I was like, yeah, those are called landlines. They're awesome, but you could start something.
Old school, mate.
Yeah.
Now, was there anything else that we wanted to cover that we spoke about earlier in the week, Ike?
Let me just double check it here. I wrote a couple things down.
Obviously, we'll talk more about your map, ElderwoodZ, if you want to start with that.
We can get there. I was thinking, I had a few of these things I thought would be great to touch on for everybody. But one of the first things that we talked about that I thought was cool, you had mentioned like interact. Well, I call them interactables, but basically like you walk into a house and there's a cupboard or a cabinet, and you actually open the door, and then you find like some loot in there. And we were talking about why isn't that really done as initially like intended or things. And I was talking to you about it and thinking like, it's pretty much completely possible. It's really not that much different than like when you open a door, and then like every house has one or two or more doors, right? Every building. So I think main thing on that would probably be like placing the coordinations for like the spawns. I mean, but it can be done. I think it just I saw someone who made like a trash looting mod or different things like that, where it just enters an animation. But I mean, if you had something similar where it's only a certain type of cabinet or things, but you know to look at that, even if it's very basic, like someone makes one of the fridges in a certain type of house, one that you can open, and then you know, and then you see what you can push it from there. I think it's possible.
So how would that work? Because this is something, again, that I'm not quite sure of with the models. But when you spawn in a house, is all the furniture included as part of that house model, or is that all placed as a separate model inside that house?
They're all separate. Those are proxies.
Yeah, they're proxies. Yeah. So they're together.
All the fridges and have all those fridges across every building turn into a different model.
In theory, yeah. Like that has like a functionality. Is that what you're saying? Like a fridge that's openable?
Yeah. Because for those who don't know, some time back, I think you're probably looking at about 6-7 years ago, there used to be certain cupboards in the game, the wardrobe ones, had an inventory space. There was also a fridge, a small little red and white fridge, I think it was, that would sometimes spawn outside. It was like a rubbish one, which also had a small amount of inventory, and you could leave stuff in them. I used to enjoy doing it. A gun that I was thinking of throwing, I'll just stick it in that cupboard, and the next person who comes along, they might need it. And you could leave food, but that all disappeared. And to my knowledge, there's nothing really like it in the game at the moment. Unless someone creates something, backpacks and sea chests and wooden crates. So it's something I've always felt lacks a bit in the vanilla game, Lemons.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest issues when it comes to addressing something like that is environmental persistence and continuity. I think a lot of people love the idea of having, these interactive rubbish containers or lockers that you can open up, but when you're looking at the approach of a game developer, you have to think of the continuity that comes with it, because when you open these lockers, it's how will that persistence translate to the game world, especially in an open world environment? When you open something like this, and is it going to be a single time use, or is it something that you can open multiple times and close? For things like garbage with the rubbish piles, there has to be some sort of auditory or visual response for the player to know that they're looting through it. I know with the mods, they're a bit more basic or kind of simple down a bit, where when you loot the trash can, this loot will come out, or you'll get access. I'm not sure if you get access to a container or how it is. Cobra would probably be able to answer that one for me, but
well, do you know what I was going to say? Am I going mad here, or did I see about 1.5 years ago someone created, or they were going to create, a mod where the green sofas, you could take stuff out of them? Do any of you remember seeing that? I saw that somewhere.
I believe so. I think it was multiple models, and then it was like a progress wheel, and you would interact with it.
You would search with it, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You'd walk over to it, and you'd have the hand animation to search through it. And then
you'd find his keys and wallets and mobile phones. That's about all that I ever get stuck in mine. But something I've always wanted to see was the lockers in police stations. It'd be great to be able to, get a crowbar or a lockpick to have to open them. And, maybe every server restart, it resets or something. I don't know. Scum's got quite an interesting model on how that works. So that could be inspiration for some people. But, some of them are locked, some of them aren't. And it's a random chance of there being something in there. The military ones as well, you got the lockers in there as well. Military people just don't leave their guns lying around for the most part. They're going to be locked away somewhere, at a minimum in a locker. So give some use to the beloved old crowbar. Pretty much all it does at the moment is a melee weapon and splits wheels.
Oh, that's a great idea. That is a great idea, isn't it? Let's get the crowbar on the next patch that opens up a locker, like unofficial. Yeah, that's great.
Funny enough, this is stuff that I've talked about before too. And I think that even if it wasn't done within a model like for a locker, if we were to generalize and have buildings that certain parts were inaccessible unless you had a crowbar to access that part of the building. I think that could be an interesting experience as well, or some sort of destructible environment where maybe there's a certain part that has to be, you have to place like an improvised explosive or a plastic explosive to be able to access that part of the building. It opens up more for the player. One of the biggest things I know the developers talked about is having a dynamic sandbox where the environment evolves around the player's experience. And this is stuff that they've wanted to do for the past, 2-3 years. And I think that simple things like this can make a huge change for the environment for the player, and that just their the immersiveness, when it comes to having an open world sandbox environment like DayZ.
Michael's got a good point there. A few of those throughout the map would not be a bad idea, but if you started having too many of those, looting would just become tedious and boring, which it can be at times anyway. And maybe that's something, again, I don't know, Ike, if this is possible, but you could randomize the location of them, switch them out, so they're not always in the same space. So it's more of I just found one, sweet. Hopefully it's going to have some good loot in it or something like that. I don't know if that's possible, but
yeah, I mean, it's funny because I always like to think like if with enough work, it seems like just about anything could be possible. But I think Lemons hit it really well when he talked about when you're looking at it from a development perspective. I mean, it's one thing if you have your own server and a small like PvE community, and when you're talking about those little changes happening on a smaller scale, it's not that big of a deal. But if you were to make something across, say, all official servers, and I learned some of this when working with Unreal Engine stuff, when you're trying to replicate, so make something like if you are in the same room with that person opening that locker with a crowbar, are you just seeing them stand over there? Or are you also seeing them open that? And then does that tell your client side, like, are you receiving the data that says this locker has been opened, this is or what is not in it? So we get that with crates, and things like that. And so you have to think about it in that way. So you could do a spawnable, kind of like you would have your like event spawn kind of, or like a heli crash or whatnot. You could do something like that where it could be a single locker with something in it. And, that's doable, and it might be locked. So you got to pry it or something. But I don't think on a, like every, say, this type of small police building on this left back corner room is going to have like a thing on that. I think that gets a little, harder unless it's, like a single instance space, like only that character is able to even bother with that. And so it's just the technical side.
I think the easiest way to approach would be potentially through if they had interactive objects spawned via dispatch. Now, I'm not sure if you've toyed around with that too much, Ike, but using a dispatch system
hang about. Where did FedEx come into this?
Yeah.
we're dispatching shit now. Explain that, dumb it down. Remember, you're 100%. Talking to a 2-year-old brain here.
Yeah, 100%. So basically, the dispatch system in DayZ, we have something called the map group proto, and that's what tells whatever model what loot points spawn in that building. One thing that we have within that is something called a dispatch, where we can actually assign certain like items that are like within the types to be able to spawn at certain points within them, like within the model. For example, they took advantage of that with the underground bunkers, where they have dispatches where the pox grenade will spawn in. If you go to the pox room, they have those opened up cases. They have the pox grenade spawn specifically in that, and that's handled through dispatch. Now, if they were to do something similar to have dynamic fridges or certain models like that to be able to spawn throughout the object, that could be done fairly easily. But then again, it also is a active dynamic object, so then you have to think about stuff like performance.
And on that note, Jose has jumped in. Good to see him.
Just saw that. We were just talking about you, Josie, and how good some of your guides is. You're one of the good eggs out there, sharing a lot of the info. But yeah, I was actually sitting there thinking, I've got to try and drag you over to the other side of the screen, Cobra, and we'll have the smart guys on the right side of the screen and the dumb guys on the left. Yeah, we'd have the dumb
ones over on the left, mate. Yeah.
But no, I would love to see more interactables in the environment. Is that something you're looking to do with ElderwoodZ?
I think the safest thing for me to say is I need to be a good boy and focus on one thing at a time, and just I need to just get my base map because that's the thing. I've spent a long time and I have all these things I want to integrate into it. But I figured if I can at least get the whole map, even if it's just vanilla wise, right? At least the setup, the terraforming, if I'm gonna have an underground thing here, well then I can carve out that underground. So for me, I really do want to move on and do more things, but it still comes down to like one major thing. I'm going to finish ElderwoodZ. I'm going to make it as great as I can. But the question is, what kind of interest am I going to have with DayZ as far as like community mod creation things as a primary focus, or am I going to want to, am I going to want to try and make my own kind of thing in another engine or things? And it all depends on kind of my personal career and stuff, what I can sink the time into. But I would love to be able to do more things like that. Like that's kind of like a dream goal if I'm able to get into that kind of thing. I think it just comes down to if there's enough people who like want to see that and support and things, then I think it's good to go ahead and pursue that and to let it be. But I also want to be realistic and be like, let's finish the map and then we'll make some awesome cool things. But I definitely think it's possible and worth exploring.
Josie, thank you so much for becoming a member, mate. Really do appreciate it, buddy. That means a lot. But yeah, no, that would be it'd be so good. So good. And Tony, thank you so much. That's very kind words, mate. 5,000 hours in game is still, mate. I'm shit at PvP as well. But that's the thing I love. DayZ is just such a great game that you can just, you don't need to be a PvP god. It helps. It does help. But you can still, go check out my boy Vigilante Gamers channel. King Alex as well is another one. Got those two talking now, which I'm really happy about. They're probably two of the best tactical minds in the game. But there's ways for even potatoes to be able to play and survive in this game, and it's just amazing. What else did you want to talk about, Ike?
Let's see. I'm gonna pop up or close this little chat tab for a second because my ADHD.
I've just done the same, mate. It's all right.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's kind of how I am. People who know me will know that sometimes like I can, I'll chase the squirrel in a circle and then I'll be gone, like if you didn't keep your eye on me. But and part of that was another little thing I thought about, talking about and stuff is just overall. We had mentioned the other day, like maybe touching on a couple of the struggles, within going and taking on, whether it's a big or small project or things, just kind of what are those things that you kind of run into. And I thought all of us could like definitely be able to touch on that. My main thing, and I talked about this a little bit a second ago, but I just wrote down like you have to decide like when enough is enough. Like, is this good enough? Because sometimes less is more.
Yes.
And when you look at DayZ at a whole, like I get people saying like, okay, we should just have like what's the next thing or whatever. But from Bohemia's perspective, if DayZ is being loved kind of as is, even with like they haven't had certain expectations that other fans and players have wanted met or different things, from their perspective and stuff, like how radical would you want to get when it works, like, and things like that. Yes, there are certain things that could be changed, but they could in turn actually really change it. That maybe not for the better. I've thought about that with like what if they tried to change AI, but it really changed the whole flow of DayZ as far as zombie pathing and zombie interaction. It could be a good or a bad thing. But just touching on kind of like deciding when, like you have to, I think if you set limits and clear goals, my buddy Grinch was really helping me with this the other day. And he's like, I believe in you, like whatever you're thinking you're going to do or this or that. And I know you can do it. He's like, I just want you to, like just decide you're going to do it and see it through. And that's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, all right, I'm going to focus, get some more things going. And for anyone who's interested in starting some type of journey, especially with mods, but mapping in particular, I would highly recommend. And then most of the things you're going to see out there are going to be a little more geared towards this bigger type of map. And that's what people are providing, like scale wise and all these little inputs. It's not that hard to calculate and scale that down. I recommend it 100%. Make yourself a small island. Make it your like first little, like you could do as little or as much with it as you want, but you only have so much space. So even if you completely polish that little island, like you will have accomplished it and you can make another one. And you can go from that. And so I think starting or dreaming a little too big when it comes to stuff can be kind of a barrier, because then you feel like you're always playing, catch up. So, I mean, original map, I don't know if we have like a screenshot of it or whatever, but I think some people have seen it. There was not that much ocean around it. Like I feel like every month I carved out a whole nother section of the map, and I ended up liking the way it started taking shape, you know, because I didn't have to have something 3 times the size of Shanaris. I mean, what I already have developed right now is almost like that size anyway, and it's like, you know, I don't need something like too crazy, but it'd be nice to have like better quality of less, you know.
He's saying don't start a 1,600 square kilometer map.
Yeah, I mean,
see you next year on that one. Yeah, maybe 2.
I think one of the issues too is just, you know, as an independent developer, you know, you put so much weight on yourself because you don't have much other people to rely on. Whereas if you're in a development studio, you know, there's people that are trying to do specific duties. And I think, you know, as a mapper for DayZ, you know, it's such a multifaceted thing where, you know, you start off when you're creating the terrain, you have to create custom. If you want to really push it to the next level, you have to create custom assets. And then once you get past that point, you go to the server side and messing with the CLE and how things work with player spawns and all that kind of thing, which is a completely different thing. You know, there's just so much stuff that goes into making that map experience. And I think a lot of people coming into it have very big ambitions, but they don't realize all the things that have to go into creating that kind of experience for the player. So, you know, like you said, Ike, you know, starting small and being able to hone on your craft and refine what you have to make it as solid as possible, and then building out from that is the best thing that anyone can do, you know?
Yeah. And I'd also recommend, and this, I mean, it's totally up for preference, because I saw the benefits of letting other people in on what you're doing sooner, you know, and it led to where I'm at now. But I don't necessarily think it was, I mean, I thought it was great. Share your whole experience and like how you're doing it. But your approach for, hey, here's what I'm doing and here's how awesome it is and support me, I think that should be reserved in hindsight for when you have your crap together. I mean, it's the best way to put it. I'm seeing a lot of up and coming things, and then I'll go explore, you know, whether it's a map or things. Quickest way, if you want to check out a map and see what it's really like in its current build, load it up in the editor, just the map. Or whatever's dependent on it, and go into the editor, and you can walk around, you can go through, you can fly through things, go see what they got going on underground, whatever. You can go check it out and see kind of, you know, what it's got going on. And that's a great way to kind of see or even showcase it if you're doing maps and stuff. But there's a lot of people who are also like, hey, this is awesome, all this stuff's going on. I've been there, including myself, and things, and it's great, but it's like maybe it's not quite there. It's good to let people know that you're working on it and things. But as far as promotion, I'd say just be careful with your own expectations and things, especially when it comes to community support, because it's kind of a weird thing. We talked about this, Bodhi. Sometimes you're gonna find out that a lot of people, not that it's wrong to go support like your favorite streamer or different things, you know, but are a lot more easy to go and support like someone that they'll watch for entertainment or things like that, rather than kind of buy into your development journey and the cool stuff you're making for things, you know. And so it can be tough.
Right. Now we have got to keep moving along. If anyone's got any other questions for Ike, feel free to hit us up. But there was a video released this week that blew me away. Did anyone else see the time-lapse DayZ video? The IRL location one?
Yeah, I saw a little bit of that.
Oh my God, it was so beautiful. Did you see it, Ike?
I didn't actually. I'm interested because I love looking like where they every once in a while they do a post where they're like share your IRL DayZ things, and people in those regions or who visit, and you see it and you're just like, I love how like close and accurate it is.
Lemons or Cobra, if either of you could try and screen share it, because we know that my connection, being a good old Australian internet, will tank. But hopefully one of you two can screen share it, and we could just, not all of it, because I want people to actually go and click on the link I've just shared, but just a bit of it, just to show people what this person did. It is amazing.
Let me have a little look. Are you looking as well, Lemons?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, hold on. Let me see if I'm
good. It might be better if Lemons could do it, actually, because he doesn't have a webcam going, so it should be less intensive.
I've got it up, but I think you're right.
It's a sec. Let's see if I can do this.
It's 6 days ago, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, DayZ locations in real life, 8K time lapse. Yeah, I saw a little bit of this. It's only 4 minutes long.
Yeah, we only want to show about 30 seconds of it or so people go and actually support the channel that released it. But it's astounding, just so beautiful.
I mean, a lot of it looks pretty much, bar a couple of inches the same. They've done a really good job.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And it makes you think how many hours, probably, and days and weeks and months and years went into the development of Tenoris, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, you can tell. It's just that, like I said, when something like feels that good, like the amount and looking at, you know, with how old the game is and different things, like for that time, that feeling of when you were first able to really go and open world explore and do whatever you wanted. I mean, when you got a world like that you get so pulled into, it's incredible.
One of the things that got me was I could name the real life location because of the game. So when you start looking at something, you're going to know the exact town. Watch this in a minute when it comes up.
This is beautiful.
It's crazy, you know, to see like this world that we know, but
go.
like it's real. It's real.
Yeah, in a little while you're going to see a live town.
I like when it shows Green Mountain. It's like, oh.
Yeah. There you go. There's real life right there. You see what I mean?
Yeah, maybe.
Look at that. You know exactly where that is, don't you?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So when you think about those random trees and bushes in the middle of nowhere,
they're not
quite so accidental.
Yeah. No, you all know where that is, don't you?
Yeah, the beans and the fountain. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, stop it there. So people have to go and click on the rest of it. But absolutely beautiful. The music was beautiful. The time-lapse video footage is just that's gold tier. Absolutely amazing. And yes, I did love that they put a can of beans on the water pump there as well. It's just yeah,
for sure. The from a modeling perspective, having accurate like references and bringing that to life somewhere is just so fun.
Proper accurate. I mean, that's not even Christ. When you can start, like I said, naming the real life locations you've never seen before.
Take all these DayZ people, throw them in there, and they somehow can navigate. They're like, I know where we're at. Like, we got to go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're good.
Oh, the coast? Yeah, that's just.
Now, the other thing, everyone, make sure you go in and give DayZ a nomination under the Labour of Love. If there's ever a year that the game deserves to win it, it's 10 years and just hit peak all-time record again. Plus, while you're in there, check out the other categories. Reforger is actually nominated for a bunch of awards as well, being a new release game this year as well. So throw some love over to our sister game, Armour, Reforger, and yeah. Now, there was another topic I wanted to talk about, and I saw a lot of chatter about this throughout the week, the changes to the central loot economy. Now, Ike and Lemons, I'll be interested in your perspective from the tech side of it. Cobra, I'm interested in your perspective from being a PvP sort of player. Now, I was a bit surprised about the changes to the video we're referencing is Wobo did, as always, Wobo doing Wobo things, did a really good breakdown of just what the changes mean and how the spawn time for certain items got really buffed, as in they're spawning a lot quicker. And the main ones that were worrying people was stuff like the SVD and the suppressors. And I saw people saying in the podcast Discord that, you know, basically you're going to have freshies jumping in and grabbing SVDs with suppressors and, you know, loot cycling them and all the rest of it. It was like, I understand the concern, but I don't think it's clear cut as they're saying it is. No. You've still got to go and get all that NBC gear. And that, unless you're on a high loot server, on vanilla, it's not that easy to go and get a full NBC suit. Plus, forget about just the suit, but the amount of filters you need as well. Yeah, sure. You might get lucky and be able to run into Pavlovo into one barracks and maybe find something, or Riffy and check the containers outside and maybe find an M4 or an AUG or so. No, AUGs have been moved apparently, but I don't think it was as bad as some were making it out. Cobra, I'll start with you from the PvP player perspective.
Well, let me put it this way. So I actually, believe it or not, I tested out this theory, the NBC theory. So I started off near Krasno. Now, Krasno Airfield, you've got obviously the new med tents and all the rest of that. Now, and I've done this 3 times, right? I had to go to 4 separate medicals, so 4 different towns with medicals to get, on official this is, to get the full NBC kit to start with. That took me 3 to 4 hours, right, of actual gameplay before I could get down to Riffy again. Now, when you talk about multiple spawns like suppressors and bits and pieces like that, I've got to be honest, maybe it's because it's official, I'm not sure, but I found 2 in the whole time that I re-looted Riffy, loot cycled it on an official server 3 times. And I'll tell you what, I found only 2 M4 suppressors. That was it. So
is this post that patch update?
This is literally 2 days ago.
Okay.
So that was six days ago, Wobo's video. This was 2 days ago. So I again, M4s, SVDs, VSDs, however you want to pronounce them or call them. Mate, I found one. And the DMR, come on now, I've not even found that since the update. So I don't know. I think, there are other guns that are spawning a little bit more, but they're not the top tier. And I don't know. I don't know what the fuss is about. Maybe in a couple of weeks I'll find it a bit different, but at the moment it's all right.
Ike, what's your opinion as a person aware of the nuances of the CLE and so on?
Yeah, because I haven't been like in game as much doing kind of things as far as how it's feeling or this or that, but just when trying to set it all up and stuff, just knowing that there's a lot that goes into how everything works between the zones that you select, the tiers and everything. It's it's actually kind of hard to, at least I'm assuming they're doing it anywhere near the way that I was working towards economy stuff with like the editor and things, is it's hard to pinpoint it exactly, to try and get things exactly the way you want. But I don't really know so much about I'm not like I haven't been playing as much lately. I've just been working so much in different things. But as far as the files and things go, it's really hard to get a balance there. That's about all I got on it.
What's the console community's reaction been to this, Lemons?
I've talked to you about this before, when it comes to stuff with the CLE and balancing and official, but I think that as Cobra said, it's still been a bit scarce when it comes to some of that stuff. And even at an hour within the respawn time for some of these items, there's so much traffic going through with late game players that that stuff's still getting cleared out pretty quickly, I think one of the biggest things, and something that I spoke to you about, Bodhi, is the way that they've done the NBC gear. Now, within my own approach on Zagoria, one of the things that I chose to do when I did my NBC gear is I created a dynamic event with the new fire truck model. So it's a dynamic fire truck event where you'll have like the stretchers out. If I can get a picture, I'll put that up here. But I had it so that the NBC gear, or at least the yellow one, is strictly designated to those dynamic events, so the players have to have more progression to be able to get the NBC gear. And then for the gray, I have it to the military convoys. But even then, it just makes it more, not necessarily just more scarce, but it gives more progression to the players so they have more to do. Because one of the biggest issues with unofficial right now is when you hit that plateau of being at tier 4, that end game, what do you do past that point, and that usually you see all the people start to come back to the coast, and then we have, something that's been an issue for so many years in the base game. So I think not necessarily trying to flesh out the end game more, but trying to prolong that like start to mid game is one of the best things that we can do, because then if we're able to prolong that period, there's just more stuff that has to be done, and it's more of a grind until you get to that end game point, and that's a whole different thing that has to be addressed. What do you think about that, Cobra?
I completely agree, mate. Yeah, I completely agree with you, mate. I don't think, in terms of the changes, I've always been in agreement with you for the last comment you made there around endgame. I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
I don't think there's going to be, well, not anytime soon, any major difference to that loot economy right now. I've not seen freshies running around the coast on official with SVDs or M4s. So I don't know.
I can honestly say I haven't seen, like I'm back on a Chernerus drive again myself, and I'm just not seeing the amount of people geared up on the coast.
Nah.
That said, I am playing a lot of community service, but yeah, anyone who plays official, let us know in chat. But yeah, it's, some people were making it sound like the sky is falling. I don't think it was that bad. And I like that they're still trying to mix things up, and yeah, you know, you've got to remember, if you are a terminally online DayZ player, it's a lot of a different experience for you versus those who just jump on, you know, maybe once on the weekend or whatever, and so on. But yeah, I say give it some time, and we will see how it goes. Now, something else I want to quickly do is our weekly shill. Humble Bundle have got a pretty good one. And this comes into something Ike and I were sharing some DMs. We're not going to talk about what that was about, but about how subscription models are becoming all the rage these days. Humble Bundle has teamed up with Vegas Pro, which for those who don't know, isn't a subscription model. So if you are looking for an editing software, and this was a bit of a meme one back in the day, in that, you know, when I used to do all the spotlight interviews, I'd always ask people, what editing software do you use? Adobe or Humble Bundle? Oh, sorry, or Vegas. And the Adobe ones, you know that they paid for it. The Vegas guys were all like, yeah, I downloaded Vegas, free crack version of it. Well, now you can upgrade, folks. And they have got, it's a pretty damn cool package where it's a... not just the Vegas Pro, but also some extra stuff in there, a music maker, and it's for as low as $42.83 Australian. You can get yourself Vegas Edit, Vegas Pro 19 Edit, SoundForge Pro, Music Maker, and some other music packages as well. So if you are looking for a decent one where you own it, that's the way to go, because everything seems to be going for subscription models these days, isn't it? Like, where you got to keep on paying. And how did you word it? Once they upgrade, if you don't keep the subscription, you lose your access, you lose the support, and yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of subscriptions in the world today.
Mm-hmm. You'll own nothing, and you'll be happy.
Yeah, you'll have quite the list of them, and you got to keep track of them all. Not my favorite thing, but
yeah. Okay, so something else I've learned through the week, ladies and gentlemen, soft skills actually do something. I hadn't been keeping up to speed with this. Like I said, you know, I'm a monkey brain. I just play the game and try to keep track of what's happening around it. But I saw a really cool video released by a guy basically doing a little bit of wobo science and exploring that the little hammer and needle that you see on the when you open up your inventory screen, that actually does have an impact, and a surprisingly big impact. The video that I watched, I'll put it in the description and that as well for everyone. But you can actually really speed up your combination lock breaking skills by maxing out your the hammer side of things. So chopping down trees and building, I was kind of stunned at just how fast he was doing it by the end of the video. Has anyone else had any experience with that? Lemons?
No. Not with the combination locks, but I have seen stuff where I know you get bigger yields. Depending on, I think with the hammer, you get bigger yields when you're trying to harvest stuff, and then with the needle, you get I think it's easier to repair to pristine, and you get more repairs out of your repair kits that you use.
So I'm going to put it into chat now for folks, but I was genuinely surprised. I thought they'd kind of moved away from that model. with the soft skills and that, and to find out that it's still there and actually does have quite an impact. And a lot of people were, because the guy did a video and he basically said, I don't want to do this again. And then he got a whole pile of views on it and a whole pile of questions and comments from people about some of the benefits that you get. Now, I didn't finish watching the video I just shared, but it speeds up a lot your resource gathering. I don't know whether it was like increased usage of items and that, but it's definitely, I shared it with Wobo as well, to see if that's something he's ever thought of looking into. But I've wondered about it, what other impacts is there about that in the game? The guy started to look into things like trying different items and all the rest of it and seeing if there was any increase there. And the problem with it is that you can only go one way or the other. You can, you can either become a building guru or a repairing guru sort of thing. So you've got to be careful with you basically, it's very hard for someone to max it out. Like I think he said he spent hours chopping down trees and just building stuff. Someone said building shelters is a good way to make it move quicker. And so it's something I would like to find out more about. What was that like?
Is it in any way like persistent, or is it just for the duration of your life, like as long as you're alive?
I believe it's just
the
your life.
duration of your life.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I've always said, things like that aren't bad. Like my mate Spud and I, we've got a server at the moment where you get reputation. That there's only a handful of us dabbling in it, but when you die, oh my god, it annoys the crap out of you. I still haven't got enough reputation. We just lost Lemons, but I still haven't got enough reputation to use the trader on the server. And every time I get close, I die. So little things like that add a permanent consequence of not just losing whatever gear you've got. I'm all for that. I would like to see that soft skills thing explored more, find out more about it in a more easy to digest version because, you have gained 1 point in fishing.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Yep. It opens up another, play style from just that, just like one life run and like, whatever. Because anything that kind of adds to that factor, unless you're maybe like a loot rat or something on a regular server, and you just don't want to let go of what you have. Anything that kind of adds that you're kind of looking over your shoulder or you're really wanting to stay alive. I think it changes the way you play overall. When you value your life, you just have to find a good balance that works for you on whether you're too upset or not,
Yep. Now, Cobra, CC Spotlight.
Okay, well, I'm going to follow my trend for the last week, actually. We're actually going to be highlighting a slightly bigger content creator again this week. Usually, as you know, we go for the smaller ones or the mid-range tier. But I saw a video that had me kind of giggling a little bit this week, and it's one of Minder's. So for those of you that don't know, Minder has a server with a treehouse mod. I'm not going to give you the name of that. I'll post a link in chat. But it's maybe a little bit controversial. This will bring up the age-old argument of should a server owner play on a server. Put it this way, the video was quite funny. It was quite good. Basically, he didn't kill anyone. He wasn't getting into that type of naughtiness. Bear in mind, he owned a server. But the video, the link should be posted. I think Boyd's going to post the link anyway. And it's called How I Saved New DayZ Players from Their First Base Raid. So I thought, you know what? I'll have a little look at this. See, it'll probably be a little bit funny here. And basically, what he did is he rolled up on a group of brand new players who had just started to build a base over on a Cherno map. And quite clearly, they didn't really know too much about the game. They're just starting out, which was quite funny. And he kind of helped them along the way. Now, this isn't a typical let me gain loads of views by showing you that I've killed like someone from 10,000 meters. This was no PvP intended on behalf of our man here. But he does help them try and build this base. They get a bit of a relationship going. And it turns out to be quite entertaining. So he brought it out 2 days ago. I found it was quite interesting. So my spotlight of the week this week on the content creation side is Minder and his latest video. By the way, a quick little congratulations. He's just hit 250k subs over on YouTube,
Nice.
which is a massive feat as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well done, my man. I'm not sure if you saw him. He posted up a short about a week ago. He had the M79 and he was messing around in.
Saw that clip.
Did you see
My
that?
God, that was a great shot.
That was a brilliant shot, wasn't it? He must have been what, 1,000 out or 800 out or something. Anyway, he was on top of one of the high rise buildings up at Northwest. I think it might have been just before the update and the new airfield. I think it may have been. I'm not sure. I can't remember now. But anyway, he was in the airfield. He was on a roof, and he just went, "You know what? I'll point this to the sky, calculating." And he fucking hit it. He hit it. Unbelievable. Team of 3 or 4, the opposite side of the airfield, and it hits one of them. It's a great shot. Anyway.
I love that they've got the M79 thumper in the game. It's just such an iconic weapon.
Yeah.
And even got the sound right. Like, I was so hyped when expansion added it. Yeah. But no, that's awesome. That's absolutely awesome. Okay. Another quick shield, guys. If you're in the EU and you're looking for a server, please check out our partner Lid Hosting. Just sharing their stuff now in the relevant chats. Great servers, and it's run by someone who plays DayZ. You can't ask for more. DayZ's a bit of a funny game, and actually having someone who runs the company and knows the game can only be good for you with trying to sort out issues for your server. But okay, let's move along. What have we got next? Well, we've lost Lemon, so we can't do our console talk. I ran a poll through the week. We didn't get a question from the DayZ Wiki team, so I thought, what can I do to have something to talk about? And it was just something that came up in discussion about what divides the player base the most. And I thought about probably the 4 biggest topics I could come up with, because you can only have 4 things in a poll in I
think we're losing you.
Yeah, we've lost you there, Boydie. I'm not sure if he knows we've lost it.
I'll know soon.
Oh, you're back. Oh, nearly back. Half back. He'll be back in a second.
Yeah.
When he's closed that app down. Hold on. You send him a little message quick. Suddenly burst in mid-conversation, you watch.
Yeah, just finishing what he's saying. Just wrapping it up.
The results were, and thank you. That's it. Oh, he's gone.
Oh.
He's gone. He's had to reset. Oh, dear. Well, I would go on straight to spotlight of the week for both of us, but I've got a funny feeling Boydie will be back any moment. It normally takes him about 30-40 seconds to reset his stuff there. So he will be back. In the meantime, though, what do you think some of those topics would be tonight?
From the on like Twitter or that he was talking about, or
Yeah, from his poll. What do you think? Some of the biggest things that divide the community right now.
Yeah, I was looking at that earlier, and let's see. I just wanted to pull them up real fast, so I can look at that.
Have you got it on the poll, have you?
Almost, yeah. Let's see.
Let's have a look.
That was on his just on the DayZ podcast one.
Yeah. I haven't read his poll yet. I'm assuming KOS is on there somewhere.
I believe so. Let's see. It was just the other day. Here it is. Okay. Yeah. So there. Oh yeah. There was first-person perspective versus third-person perspective. Yeah, and then there was bases versus no bases.
Right, we have a lot of them.
official versus community, and then kill on site versus interaction. And then looking at this, we have 16.2% for the person perspective, and base versus no base was 31%. Yeah. And then official versus community about 16.8, which I initially felt like I wanted to, pick that one, but maybe it's just being more minded in, because of my own community, stuff or whatever. But and then kill on site versus interaction, which coming from thinking about even more on console and things, there's a different vibe that you get. I thought that was interesting. I loved when they came out with console because at the time I was moving and I just put a projector on my PlayStation and played it. It was awesome.
Well, speaking of which, he's turned back in. Can you hear us, Boydie?
Yeah, I can hear you.
We're just going through your poll.
I was stunned that for a while there it was quite tight, but it ended up being KOS versus interaction. I thought it was going to be base versus no base, to be honest, but
I didn't. I wouldn't have gone with that. I'd have gone with the first one, mate.
First person versus third person.
Do you know the amount of people I hear this all the time? Like every time, pretty much, I go onto a server. I don't really care. I always play first person, but even if it is a third person server, I always go in the first person. But the amount of times I hear that, and it's in my community, it's one of the it's bigger than KOS, I think, in my community.
But see, I don't agree based on one thing, because for the most part, that's kind of been resolved. There's people who prefer the first person, and there's people who do the third person. But for the most part, there's not a lot of overlap. There's some who can handle it, but me, I avoid third person servers like the plague. But base versus no base, that's a bit of a harder one, unless they turn base building off.
Yeah, but I love that. I love that, mate. I go on those servers because it's harder to bloody play, and you can't. I was on one today, day one, right? I was over on the mouse, day one servers, right? You can't even dig a dry sack. You can't even put a dig site down. You can't build a crate because there's no nails on the server, and I just think it's a different vibe. I actually like it, to be fair.
It kind of harkens back to very early DayZ, where pretty much all you had was the tents and the barrels, and you'd go running through the bushes and find a little tent and or a barrel stashed under a tree or something like that. And I like that, but at the same time, I do love my bases because if you were gonna be in this sort of situation, you would be doing that with setting yourself up somewhere to operate out of. Even just the improvised shelters, they're the best, absolutely the best for me.
Yeah, you're always thinking about getting somewhere off the wall. I remember it was a lot of content that came around on YouTube eventually, with people being like, my favorite under a bridge base that I'll make, or things like that, or these little untraveled spots until you let everyone know your good secrets.
Yeah, absolutely. Mate.
We need more underground sort of things, like Chernerus has got now the bunker, and then you've got that bridge up in the northwest of the area, and that's about it. There's no real other places where you could lock off caves or anything like that. And I'd love to see more of that sort of stuff, and that's what I've liked seeing on some of the modded maps. But
well, I'll tell you what I liked on the modded maps is the new underground base mod that you dig that gets from tier 1 to tier 3. I just released a video on that, a tutorial on that a week and a half ago. I love that, mate. I think that's such a good mod. I think you'll find that's going to really take hold over the next few months. A lot of servers are starting to use that, and the only problem with it is, one, depending on the server setup, you can raid that with a hacksaw. 2, how many gates you can get underneath it, again, depends from server to server. But when you put a camo net on top of that underground base mod, if you put it in the right spot, that is so difficult to find. But anyway, yeah, it is what it is. I enjoyed that.
It was a good poll. I enjoyed a lot of good comments on there as well. But yeah, it was a good discussion. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are pretty much at the end of the show now. Ike, was there anything else you wanted to cover, buddy?
There's all kinds of things we can talk about. What I was thinking is just if you guys are interested in getting a little bit behind the scenes on what's coming next, this for the last month of the year, I'm going to be doing a play test, just where it's at right now.
Yep.
And I have a little thing you'll be able to just kind of RSVP for that. And then I would say just check out any posts or join the Discord that I have. I put all the updates on the map, and then I'm going to be doing dev streams where you can ask anything you want, and I might even just go pop over wherever, talk about it. That's kind of one of the best ways to cover that. And then yeah, it's kind of exciting because the last play test we did was definitely much earlier, but it actually got a little bit of traction. It was fun. I had like a 40 slot server that got like maxed out, and I ended up having to try and do a little bit more with it and stuff, and it was a good time. So there's definitely some more things coming, and hopefully you guys will want to kind of follow along. I
just shared the Google Doc to register for the play test in the chat for everyone, so if you want to check it out, we'll also have links for Ike's map Discord and everything like that in the description of the video when it drops, so you can check it all out. Get in there, find out more information, ask him stuff. Go check out his YouTube channel. That's in the link in the description now as well. If you're interested, pardon me, in finding out more about the technical side of it. Like, I swear, I probably need to get you on and do a spotlight interview with you, mate, because the biggest travesty is that we've only got roughly about 90 minutes for these shows. The stuff that what I'm really hoping we get from this is people asking us questions in the comments of this, so I can get you back on in the future, and we maybe spend some more time one-to-one and go more in depth with what you're doing, get some videos up to show people the challenges. Some of the stuff we talked about through the week was, even you see people, they could go and buy asset packs, but it's not just as simple as, I've got that asset and then I can just stick it on my map. There's a lot more involved. Yeah, there's a lot more involved in it, and it's a good value. Getting people to create stuff for you. It's such a minefield getting into creating your own map, and then seeing where you want to go with custom sort of stuff. It's crazy, isn't it, Ike?
It is, yeah. I mean, and there's so many ways it can go and stuff, and so just if you are getting into that or things like that, I would just be open with people about kind of what you're wanting to do and how you're doing it, and then I guess what will happen will happen. But as long as you're sharing your stuff and showing that you got something fun going, let people be a part of that. I think you'll do well and grow, because some of the coolest things I've seen are when people decide to come together and collaborate. You get a few fans of something. Really, like, the most motivation I've ever had to just kind of dive in and do more for DayZ or release something is when somebody spent the time to be like, hey, that was pretty cool, and what about this? And then I'm like, what about that? And it really just it actually makes you kind of want to invest more into it, because what you get out of it isn't like some super financial gain or anything like that. It's different. This is all for the community and for like this game we all love, and so the more that we can kind of put out there and share and collaborate, I think just the better it gets for all of us to enjoy.
So individual spotlights, lads. I'll start everyone off. Mine, I have to go with Baby Nades. That guy was a bit of a grey man at times in the DayZ community, and he did drop off there for a while, but he's officially come out and announced he's pretty much retiring from making content, moving on. And it's sad to see him go, because he did a lot of really good videos, Baby Nades Island, and just, I don't ever recall him being in any drama or anything like that. He was just a good egg who loved the game, had some great ideas and did stuff, had some amazing videos that blew up. I got to interview him a few years back as well. So, Baby Nades, thank you for everything you did for the DayZ community. Cannot thank you enough, mate. Cobra, what about you, buddy?
I'm going to do, as you know, I like to spread the love a little bit, or the awareness a little bit outside the DayZ community on my spotlights majority of the time. This week, I'm going to be going on about, or talking about homelessness. Now, the reason I bring this up is there's a lot of veterans out there right now who are suffering, but there's also a lot of average normal people, should we say, for whatever better word. A lot
more than normal as well of late. Things are getting scary.
Bad. I mean, I was down in my local town literally this week, and the amount of people, and bear in mind it's snowing down there pretty much.
I know, it gets so cold.
Horrible, right? And the amount of people that are sat there freezing, huddled over, trying to get a cup of coffee. Now, remember this, people. Remember this. I forget the name of this, but if you go to any coffee shop, any reputable coffee shop, I think this is pretty much worldwide, right? Well, pretty much worldwide anyway. You can go and put £2 or whatever the equivalent is in where you live, your country, behind the till, and a homeless person can walk in and say, "Have you got any of these?" I forget the name of it.
I've heard. I know.
Like a voucher, yeah.
You just they can they can go to the cashier and say, "Is there any free coffees today?" Basically, and anyone that's donated £1, £2, 50p, whatever it is, they have this like little backlog that they can give out free coffees to the homeless. And what's even worse, especially coming up to Christmas time here, is any youngsters out on the street, and you do see that around, and that's not good. So that is my spotlight this week. Bearing in mind, there are charities around there. I can speak for the UK side of life, support homeless charities. And also there is a Donate to Friends of the Earth, which deal with child basically homelessness and shelters at Christmas. So if you've got any spare cash, try and do something about that, people.
So I'm going to try and say this, and I'm going to massacre the Italian language. Apparently it is called Caffè Sospiso. It's a deep-rooted Neapolitan tradition based on an act of kindness, as simple as it gets, literally paying for a coffee for a stranger to treasure. So whenever you find yourself having a coffee as an act of kindness, you can leave a paid coffee for someone who can't afford to buy one.
Paid coffee. That's it.
Yep.
That's it. So let's go and show a bit of support out there, a bit of love out there, people. If you've got a spare pound on you, go do it. Well worth it.
Ike, what's something you would like to make sure people are aware of, mate?
I would just say, I guess DayZ like related. That if you really enjoy and like DayZ, try not to get caught up in those dramas or different things that come up, or even just kind of like any type of bad mouthing or things. Because I've noticed, up and down throughout, DayZ's been around a long time, and it really does kind of, it pulls away from, what the whole thing is when it comes to these games and these things that we enjoy and different stuff. It's supposed to be fun, it is supposed to be fun. So if someone's got you down for, the way that you like to play or your style or whatever, you did that poll, there's some different things on there and stuff, but some people aren't so kind and others are, and just focus on those things and try and spread the love, because some new people coming in, it's great to have the community growing, and I love for their impressions to be that which sometimes are seldom. So just definitely think about those kind of things, because I love DayZ and I like it to remain as little toxicity as possible. That's
it's something I've been working on personally, because I know I'm bad for it. And the last one, I actually acknowledged it, and I said to people, I've been trying to stay away from that sort of shit. I dropped the ball, fell off the wagon, whatever you want to call it, and I ended up blocking a bunch of people who I just know rile me up. So I can try to focus more on being positive. Speaking of positive, I got to do something lovely. Make sure you join our Discord, discord.gg/87A Survivor FM. We just gave away 8 games, ranging from WWE 2K23, a game called Hard Space Shipbreaker, SCP Secret Files, Soldiers, The Legend of Tianding, Proteus, Unpacking, and Friends versus Friends. I've got the Humble Bundle Choice subscription. I just shared the link there as well, folks. Any purchases you make using that help support us and our charity, which is Wounded Heroes, an Australian veterans charity that I love. But you get you get a bunch of free games every month. Well, not really free. You're paying $30 or whatever it is for it. And if you don't like them, you can give them away. And that's what I did this month. I didn't like the games, so I gave them all away in the community. And I'm going to be doing that every month. So definitely check it out, folks. Thank you for the Discord command there, Buddha, because we've got probably one of the best DayZ related Discord communities out there, haven't we, Cobra?
Definitely, mate. Definitely. Loads in there.
Everyone's in there just trying to help and spread that positivity like you talk about, Ike, and take the piss out of each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I got to throw in a little bit of that too.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much. Cobra, we went 15 minutes over, mate. I don't know.
I see that.
know. I'm
That's
falling off the
naughty.
wagon again, aren't
That
I?
is naughty, mate. Naughty. But anyway, I'll let you go.
Thanks for having me,
it was a
guys.
great
This
show.
is awesome.
I want to get you back, mate, because there's so much more, and I think it's definitely worth doing a spotlight with you, mate, where we can really delve into the intricacies, and I might even do your one live because I get the feeling it's something that people might like to be able to ask specific questions about, just to get into the nitty gritty of what you do, how you do it, the complexities involved, and we can explore things like, when you purchase an asset, how hard is it to import? And, I shared that stuff with you about the artwork that's coming out now, what you can do with the weapons. It just blows my mind.
Yeah.
I remember seeing the anime skin stuff on the Chinese servers and just going, I didn't even know you could do that in DayZ.
Right.
Place character models with anime characters. But yeah. Tony, we used to do big, long 3-hour shows, mate, but we're trying to be a bit more consistent. And yes, I'm so glad you shaved your legs for this CMO gaming. That's good. Is Lad streaming right now? Is he? If so, definitely go check out Lad. If someone's got a link for him, post it in chat. But because we're using the Melon Talk Studio now, I can't do the raid functions and all the rest of it. So I do encourage everyone, go and find someone who you want to watch. And if Lad is going, definitely check him out. He's a good egg, our Lad.
Definitely.
Thank you so much. Lemon sends his apology. He lost power. So that's why he left so abruptly. But Cobra, a legend as always. Hang around, Ike and Cobra. We'll have a chat after the show. But yeah, thank you all so much, everyone. And we will see you next week, same time, same channel as always for the DayZ Podcast, episode 175.
That's awesome.
Okay, guys.
Ciao for now.
Peace.
And there we go.
All done,
I'm
all good.
kind of stunned that it stayed up when it froze on me. That's good to know that it does that.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was kind of cool because you're the host of it. Also, I thought it might have pooped out. But
yeah, that's probably the benefit of having you join through a proper connection rather than the guest one, Cobra.
Definitely,
you can control everything, and then it just switches to you, I'm guessing. So that was good. We've definitely got to get you back on, mate, because there was so much more that I wanted to delve into, and I think we need to spend more time. And Cobra, even if you wanted to be around for it as well, mate, we can do just a more dedicated one, because I could see even your mind was like, wow, this is awesome. We need to I would like to know more about how this all works, because when you're just an end user, it's hard to understand the complexities of what goes into creating these models. We see the problems when they arise, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be nice to put together, if we do something like that, like direct visual examples, even if that's probably like a pre-recorded clip where, the resources wouldn't be as much, as like pulling and streaming from another thing. And then you can kind of show even some of the stuff, or even screenshots.
Wait, I think we're still live. Why did that not close the stream down?
Yeah, it's still showing live for me, mate.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes special. Behind the scenes special.
Lads is piped up. I'll have a chat with Glads later, don't worry.
Yeah. God, why won't it stop?
Glads, I'll join you in Discord in a minute, mate, don't worry.
At least you guys know we're the same.